insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
JJ and Alex moves into the 5 o'clock hour, brought to you by G2G Bars. With all natural ingredients, no preservatives, and plenty of protein, G2G Bars are perfect for anyone who needs a tasty and nutritious boost. We roll into the 5 o'clock hour with NBA talk and a little BYU hoops news today as well. It's The Cut with Tim LaComb next.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Cut brought to you by Trajan Wealth today, your local financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600. You can visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. It's our time now to chat with the coach, Tim LaComb, our weekly chat on all things hoops. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are y'all doing?
We're not doing as good as Alex. He's on vacation. Smarter than us.
I do vacations more than Bernie Madoff. You might want to check the book.
Jeez. Rest in peace, Bernie Madoff. Maybe not. Nobody wants him to rest in peace.
Before all that, he seemed to vacation a lot, yachts and the like.
He certainly did. So maybe Alex has got something going on with his own fiduciary we don't know about. I'm going to have to check on that.
That's true, man. That is true.
A lot going on. Let's start with the Celtics. I want to get your take on the Celtics because I don't know what to make of them. They've been absolutely dominant, but most of the games have been close. They lost a couple at home in the first two series. Should I believe in the Celtics, Tim, in the NBA Finals, or what? Am I wrong here? How should we evaluate the Celtics in this postseason?
Well, from the looks of it, more than likely, Dallas, who with this particular group hasn't been to the finals a whole lot. Obviously, Kyrie's got that experience, but I think you'd have to look at that series and say this is something that Boston's been building for. On the other end, Dallas, I don't know that anybody could have saw this coming. Boston's got to feel decent about the fact that they're there against a team that's not playing the Nuggets, trying to do it. Now, Dallas has been just the opposite of what you said with, Boston. I feel like Boston in the playoffs at times kind of a team that plays with their food, and then kind of finishes off in the fourth quarter. They have that luxury. But, man, the fourth quarter and the way that Kyrie and Luka are, managing decision-making and scoring and distribution in the fourth quarter is just really impressive. So it looks like to me that's what it's going to be. And, I'm with you. I mean, this Boston team, like I say, this has been put together a long time ago. They've added good pieces. They've got arguably two of the more difficult dudes to guard. The problem in this one, Dallas does too.
There's no doubt about that. The way you put it, playing with their food, that perfectly describes how I feel watching the Celtics. I feel like it's kind of like the cat-mouse thing, right? Like, the cat's going to win eventually, but that's just how good the Celtics are right now. And they're also going to get a lot of rest, Coach. I mean, is that overrated? They're not going to play for 9 days. They're going to host Game 1 on June 6th. Good chance Kristaps Porzingis is back. How does this benefit the Celtics? How could it hurt them?
Well, it's the theory of rest versus rust. I think, if Dallas follows suit and picks up a sweep tonight, then they're both really kind of in that same boat. So it's not like one of them will be waiting around for a long time unless maybe Minnesota breaks through tonight and gets that thing back and strings it out a little bit. I mean, certainly right on the cusp of winning a game, but Dallas has just been too good in the fourth quarter. I think overall it helps Boston. I think getting guys a little more healthy. It's been a really rugged postseason for everybody. And then you mentioned, the biggest name, Porzingis. Not just the longest name, but the tallest name. This dude could really impact a final series, particularly guys that are getting comfortable in the mid-range. He has really that unique ability to affect things at the rim and out to, mid-range just by virtue of his size. So he would definitely be a major boost, and if they could get him back, that would definitely be great for Boston.
Yeah, so with that health of Porzingis coming back, I know the Mavs are up 3-0, but it's never over till it's over, right? Not till the fat lady sings. But what would be the better matchup, right? You got the Twin Towers in the Twin Cities of Minnesota with Rudy Gobert and Cat Towns, or the Mavericks with the duo of Kyrie and Luka. What is the better matchup? Well, I'm going to say better matchup. What would be the more interesting matchup for Boston in the finals?
Well, I think Boston would probably continue to suffocate Minnesota's guard line, and that's kind of what Dallas has been able to do with their size and length. Mike Conley, for all of his strengths, he's a guy that can get caught up in traps, and he's got to move the ball quickly. So it's an interesting question, Sly. I think that for me, guys that those two teams that have Jaylen Brown and Tatum on one side, Kyrie and Luke on the other side. Really, what does it come down to? Can those guys be continually great? And then those, what Dallas has had so much of is support from the other guys. I mean, P.J. Washington's had his number called a lot, when teams have to help off the corner and he's just burying shots. Gafford and Lively, that duo has been remarkable. We talked about it a ton on pre and post, but when that move was made, because P.J. Washington just made an impact on us. We watched the Jazz play him when he was still with Charlotte, and he was terrific. And then we've always loved Gafford. And so when those, I felt like that's what Dallas was missing more than anything, was just kind of a real presence. Norman Powell was back there, but he's not even playing anymore. These two guys have really taken all those minutes. So impressive moves by Dallas, impressive results so far. I think Dallas will hold off Minnesota. Now it really is just can Boston buy a little time by Minnesota being a nuisance on the way out?
Our guest is Tim LaComb, the coach, as he is each week, making an appearance here on JJ and Alex. And for the Mavs, I'm looking back on when they got Kyrie, and I'm going to be honest, I was so wrong. I thought, what are they thinking? Why would they want to take on this baggage? It's worked, and it's worked tremendously. Can you explain to us why Kyrie and Luka and the Mavs have worked out so well?
It would be an interesting study because, I actually was back at training camp when Kyrie was his first year with the Celtics, and I can tell you that I could tell from the outset that was going to be a difficult fit just by reading the room, reading the body language, watching those guys down on the floor kind of interact with each other early. With all that said, one of the things I asked in some time I had with Danny Ainge was, what's Kyrie really like? And, I was really surprised by the answer, but, Danny was very complimentary. Said it didn't work out personality-wise, things like that, but he did not castigate or cast a negative light, on Kyrie. All these things, it's what makes the Jazz situation so interesting. Everybody wants to fight and claw that the Jazz could have given that more of a chance. But I think, if you watch that team enough, the die was cast. And I think everybody involved had just kind of rescinded to the fact that this isn't going to work. I mean, it's the way everything was kind of approached. So, why continue to kid yourself and move on? And I think what Dallas did in grabbing him, I was right there with you, JJ. I was so negative about that, and I thought, they're going to take one of the best, volume ball handlers in Luka and put Kyrie right next to him, and I just can't imagine how it's going to work. And I promise you, what the linchpin was for this deal was Lively drafted. It was brilliant, and then obviously those moves made at the trade deadline really put them over the hump.
And you look at the moves that the Mavericks made, that they deserve a lot of credit for what they did. What can we learn from the Mavs team building there with the moves that they made that put them over the top that maybe could apply to the Jazz in the future when they get to that point?
Well, I think what's really exciting, I mean, I know I was listening earlier, and I think everywhere I go, I do get the vibe that people are a little bit antsy and frustrated about, the rebuild and just how difficult it is to struggle. I've told you guys this all along. I look at it the other way. I kind of see the things that are being built on, and right now I believe this summer there's going to be a lot of movement. There's going to be a lot of activity. The Jazz have a ton of money. They have picks galore. They have 3 picks in this draft, that they could package with, something with a player. And so there's just all sorts of movement that could happen here. But I do believe that the Jazz have progressed beyond, kind of getting little splinters. And I think they're going to go for bigger slices, bigger pieces as they make themselves available. Now, Mikal Bridges' name got floated the other day, a guy that I absolutely love as a teammate, a guy that'll come in, play hard every night, uses length, uses intellect, and then he's skilled. From that corner, he could be a guy like P.J. Washington. So keep your eyes up. You understand the lay of the land. There's nobody, I promise you this, that's better than that, than Danny and Justin. Those 2 guys do a great job. So where there's a lot of frustration, I look at it the other way. I think there's a whole lot of fun ahead, and this summer I do believe there's going to be a lot of activity and action.
And the draft's coming up soon, and that action could happen before the draft even takes place here in about a month. Another topic from this Timberwolves Mavericks series is the Rudy Gobert bashing. And we just did a segment on Kendrick Perkins, his comments, how he regrets his vote for Rudy for Defensive Player of the Year. Why is Rudy's being such a target here, and why is this narrative continue to play out? Because when you look at the facts, Tim, they're 24 points better defensively with him on the floor than they are off. I mean, he clearly makes a difference. But why is this continue to be a story?
You know what? Because I think it's something that, unfortunately, Rudy was tagged with early in his career. The whole idea that in the playoffs the game becomes so much more tactical, and teams really do, as opposed to regular season, where they do take advantage and they do have game plans. But the playoffs, with all of the extra energy exerted, there's just nothing like it. And Rudy was kind of labeled with this, guy that you can't play during the playoffs, that, he's going to put up these numbers in the offs during the regular season. But at the end of the day, you can't win with him. And unfortunately, a narrative becomes a stronger narrative when you don't break it. I mean, it's just that firm. And is it his fault? All his fault? Absolutely not. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that. But we live in a world where it has to be somebody's fault.
Somebody's, right.
And Rudy's probably, because he has won defensive MVP a couple of different times, and, he gets a big old check. I mean, that's probably the place that everybody's going to turn and go, why couldn't you have blocked that last shot? I heard on Twitter, that Wemby would have never let that shot be shot. Well, we don't know that, happens to be one of the more crafty dudes with the ball. And I think Rudy has shown during the playoffs that he can guard an ISO. But again, you can't take one particular play and blow it up to be this massive narrative. But until he breaks it, I'm afraid it's coming his way.
Yeah, I mean, what is that? I mean, you said it, one of the higher paid players, and that comes with the scrutiny. When you get paid more, it comes with scrutiny. So Rudy has to definitely eat this, which I think he has. But again, like JJ said, over the career, he's been just berated, from Shaq to Stephen A. Smith to all of the media analysts, everybody coming at him, all kinds of other players coming at him. But, this is like one thing that my linebacker coach said when I played with Pittsburgh is get the money, but don't get too much money, because you get too much money, it comes with a lot, right?
It's like the Spider-Man, man, where there's a whole lot of expectation, man. The responsibility, the accountability
not getting a lot of money has worked out well for me.
I was going to ask JJ how it's worked.
You got to toe the line.
I mean, last time I saw you, you're a wafer thin, and you could walk you could walk out there on the runway modeling suits or something.
I don't know about that.
All right, man, he's making it good. This Salt Lake City fat loss is it's good. It's awesome.
I'm melting.
See if you get some of those dollars falling out of his pocket sly and send them my way.
More pennies than dollars, to be quite honest.
Following Joe, but Tim, so do you think with all the scrutiny, are his defensive player of the years? What is this, number 4? Are they worth it? I mean, is that in question? Should he have not? Because right now, I mean, Kendrick is putting out this narrative that, and Draymond, that his defensive player of the year should be rescinded, or he should have never got him.
No, I think that's just now everybody taking that and running, because particularly right now where they look right. But no, this is excellence over an 82-game season, year in and year out, where the dude has himself ready to play, understands strengths and weaknesses of teams. And if you watch him enough, like we did here, the number of shots that teams don't even try because he's in the area. Locke used to call it Gobert land. He's like, don't go in there. It's scary. And NBA teams, when it comes right down to it, he does his fair share of disruption. But again, that was a very loud 3 right in his face the other night. And, you string together some non-highlight clips of Terrence Mann doing the same thing from the corner and do it year over year. And obviously there's going to be a lot of squawking.
Let's turn the table to BYU real quick, because there is some BYU basketball news I wanted to hit you up with. There was a Woj bomb today with BYU in it again. This is becoming a trend with Kevin Young now as the head coach of BYU. They've apparently landed a commitment from Egor Demin, player from Russia who's been playing with the U18 Real Madrid. And a lot of Draft Express believes that he could be a 2025 NBA lottery pick. How big of news is this for BYU, and what does it mean for their recruiting?
It's massive. I had a couple of people call me today just to get my thoughts on it. And, it just really is that, coupled with the news that the number 1 player in the nation for next year, who's already visited BYU's campus, has decided to come out here to go to prep school, in Utah. So it's stuff that, I tried to make happen. I just didn't have enough money in the satchel.
Again, money keeps coming up in this conversation. Jeez.
But what I think is really great is, KOA understands that he's got a real advantage. And his advantage is he just walked from the NBA. He's got a ton of street cred with not just players, but agents, and particularly international guys who, the high-end international guys are dealing with the NBA all the time. So there's been major friendships developed over the years. The hires have been so unique and interesting. They're coming from all sorts of different places. And I think what I see is A, he's having success, and B, he's got a real plan that he's following. But I do know this. He's beat Kentucky now on recruits. He's beat Calipari straight up on this kid. I mean, Calipari was all in on Egor, and they were able to beat him. They've done a really good job in a short period of time, just kind of establishing the fact that they wanted to keep their main guys here, keep them happy. And then, instead of, shopping at used car lots, they're going to go buy right off the dealership floor, and they're going to play that game. And looking for those high star recruits. I would say with a lot of European player mixed in, because a guy like Egor comes to Utah for 9 months, prepares himself for the draft, and you look up any mock draft and his name's, somewhere in the middle of that thing in the first round. So they got themselves what looks to be a really good player.
It's crazy. BYU beating Kentucky and Arkansas for basketball recruits. It's a new day in Provo. Coach, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Enjoy Game 4 tonight, I guess. I don't know. It just seems inevitable what we're going to see here, but I am looking forward to a Mavericks-Celtics finals.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is my couple years in the NBA, watching the NBA, covering it closely, right when you think you've got something figured out, the narrative shifts a little bit. So I'm not totally surprised if we get a gentleman's sweep on our hands if Minnesota can get it back home, because the games have been close.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's inevitable, I think, Dallas and Boston.
Well, we'll preview that next week. But for now, enjoy the game tonight, Coach. Always appreciate it. You're the best. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds great. Good to be with you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Right. That's the coach, Tim LaComb. Enjoying the NBA offseason. But when you love hoop never sleeps.
Never.
Always on top of everything. College, pro, he covers it all. and it's always great to talk to Coach Tim LaComb to get insight on it. He knows hoops like no one else, so we appreciate him coming on each and every week, and glad to have him as part of the team. Well, there you go. I mean, yeah, we keep talking about this Rudy Gobert thing. That sucks. But you know what? Like, you're right. It's just the scrutiny. It's the NBA. That's how it's going to work. If you want to make the big money, you want to be the defensive player of the year, people are going to come at you. If you claim you're the best, I mean, Tom Brady got the scrutiny all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
But he was able to overcome it and still become the GOAT. But, like, you know how many people wanted to take down Tom Brady? So they all got their shot.
I was one of them.
You were one of them, okay? And you knew how hard it was.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of pressure on him all the time. And I don't – while he was able to overcome a lot of that, I'm sure that still has an impact on him. The amount of pressure that he had to live with every day to be Tom Brady.
Right.
That's tough. So when you're Rudy Gobert, you have to be Rudy Gobert. You have to be the best player and defensive player in the league. And
comes with scrutiny.
But you're going to judge him playing one-on-one against Luka at the top of the perimeter?
The NBA scoring leader?
Come on. I mean, yeah. We know what the numbers are. It's not Rudy Gobert's fault. It's the fact that the Timberwolves are not making shots is why they're in a 3-0 hole. We'll see what happens tonight. All right, when we come back, we're going to turn the page to the NFL. The Blitz is next on JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.